Hey, good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack here. Wednesday now, the 5th of February, 2025. Great to be back with you again. Now we're in the month of February, and we got a lot to talk about. We had a nice warm-up, and now it's going to be back to not quite as cold as we saw, but definitely a lot of winter storms, or, as the headline says, lots of winter storms coming up over the next week to 10 days. We'll take a look at that, including the chance. So you're telling me there's a chance that Las Vegas, you've been following this? You probably haven't, but I have. More than 200 days now without any measurable precipitation in Las Vegas. That's a long time. It really is. And so I'm going to show you that, a little statistic related to that. And maybe the pattern is going to finally favor Vegas getting some rain. What are the odds? We'll find out, at least to the extent that I can. And we'll take a look at some other odds and ends kinds of things as we continue on looking at the weather. All right? Again, good to have you join me. Let's get started. First of all, check that out. That's last night from one of our cameras up along the Outer Banks of North Carolina. That is the SpaceX Falcon 9 heading into orbit, taking a payload with it. Lots of people saw this last night along the East Coast, all the way up to the New England area, even pretty far inland, because it was a northeast trajectory launch, and the setting sun way over here, already below the horizon, was still shining on the plume and the rocket itself. Although you can't see the rocket, you'd need a pretty good telescope to see that, or something like that, right? But you can see the exhaust plume, and that is lit up way up there. I don't even know how high that would be, but it's definitely high enough to still be in sunlight. In fact, as this goes on, let me just click ahead a little bit, it'll disappear. I don't know if it does that in this shot or not. We have actually 3 cameras up here, but the higher up it got, the brighter it became, and then it disappears into the Earth's shadow, and it just goes away. The ISS will do that as well when that passes over the International Space Station. You'll see it coming across, and then poof, it just goes away because it passes in the Earth's shadow. So just something neat to show you, kind of a lighthearted, cool thing as we start today's update. All right. Also, it's National Weatherperson's Day, and lots of people talking about that on the social media. And this caught my attention earlier, so I thought I would show you. Happy National Weatherperson's Day to all those that are out there doing all kinds of things related to the weather. I'm included in that, and as is the Weather Service and storm spotters and TV meteorologists, social media meteorologists, people that, forecast for the military and for commerce, all that. We appreciate it very much. And I got to be a part of this. This was very special. The folks at the Federal Alliance for Safe Homes awarded Bill Reed, a good friend of a lot of us in the business, Weatherperson of the Year for 2025. So big congratulations. We all knew there was a bunch of us that jumped on this Zoom earlier. You can see them. There's the thumbnails of them all down there. This is just a fraction of the people. And he had no idea that he was getting this award today, plus a Lifetime Achievement Award. And that was presented by, is it Dr. Leslie Henderson? I can't remember if she's a doctor or not, PhD. But nevertheless, Leslie, also a good friend of a bunch of us in the business to help build more resilient homes and everything else, right? The Federal Alliance for Safe Homes and their leadership in helping to get people to be better prepared for disasters. And what a deserving person, Bill Reed. If you don't know him, wow, what a terrific guy. So I'm happy for him. That's awesome. All right, let's move forward on the weather itself. Look at all the purple. What's that mean? All these purple shadings up here in all these counties? Well, in most cases, in fact, let's just click on, for example, up here in Illinois and Indiana. Well, that's a winter weather advisory, so kind of one tick down from a winter storm watch, but those are going to be coming. And then this kind of, what is that, a maroon kind of color? That's what you don't want to see. That's your ice storm warning. The cold air is around, but it's not deep enough to give us all snow. And that is a problem, because that ice is a lot bigger problem, of course, than just regular old snowfall. But this is what the map looks like today, the watch warning map along the Gulf Coast. We have some fog issues, and even down here in parts of the Charleston area, the low country of South Carolina. And then in interior areas, Arkansas, southern Missouri, some fog issues as well. Why? Because it's been so warm down here, and you percolate that moisture into the atmosphere. The nights are still cool. You cool things off after sunset. The cool air helps to condense the air, and bam, you've got the moisture in the air, and you got fog, right? And this is all related to sea fog. I don't want to get into the weeds of it too much, but just thought I would point it out. We have the red flag warnings out here, and you're because of the strong wind and the possibility of fires related to that, and just all kinds of things going on midweek here through this first full week of February. So what's going to happen over the next week to 10 days? Well, I'm going to tell you what. Let me just draw your attention. We'll use red to make it pop better. Basically, the northern part of the country up here, not trying to exclude the border states, but really right through this corridor that I have drawn, it's going to be pretty darn busy. And I'll show you. Let's just move this through. One storm system gets going, all those pinks and purples in there. Yep, that's your ice and sleet and freezing rain. Just yuck. That moves through. This is basically tomorrow, and then into the weekend, another system develops. So it's just one storm after another. Finally, we get towards Valentine's Day in that time frame, and another one comes, and then maybe, just maybe, this is going to be the one. This is about 8 days out, getting towards 9 days, possibly to deliver some rain to Las Vegas. We'll have to see about that. Hopefully the Pacific can cooperate and the upper air pattern to get us some rain down there to the valley floor of Las Vegas, because it has been a long time, 207 days without any measurable precip down there, and those records go back to 1937. So yeah, they're only 35 days away from a new record. The longest they have gone is 240 days, and that ended in 2020, 12/16/2020. So back it up 240 days before that is when the record started, so to speak. So yes, it has been really dry. So I'm hoping, because you know what? If it happens, and this isn't too powerhouse, I'm kind of watching that and that, I might want to be in Vegas there when it rains again, because they are going to celebrate it. It'll be a big deal. And we'll see, though. Again, this is 198 hours out, valid just the day before Valentine's Day. So we'll have to see how all that shakes out. But approaching the 10-day mark here, and that's about as far out as I want to go, because even that's a stretch, right? The modeling, operational models, 10 days, take it or leave it on some of these, right? But no real big Arctic air coming into the south. Again, pretty much everything is north of that line, and if we look at it from the upper level perspective, we are pretty much in a zonal type flow. There's a broad dip in the jet stream here, but it's not that like what we saw earlier that got all the cold air all the way down to the northern Gulf Coast states. Not going to happen again anytime soon. In fact, if we back this up, look how zonal that is, broadly speaking. And it is. I mean, I don't even have to, it's not even a stretch. We're not seeing the jet stream dip south and go down like that, where you just have that Arctic air dump into the southern United States. And because of that, the lack of the thermal gradient that far south, we're not going to see any big coastal storms. Instead, we're going to see these fast-moving systems that will ride that jet across the lower 48. There's one right there. And then there's another one and another one and another one. They pop up here. There's little L's right there. See that? So over the next 10 days, fast-moving, quick-hitting storms that are going to really pile up the snow, especially in the northeast, where you can have winter without deep Arctic air. So we have to watch for that. And because of the shallowness of the cold air, the ice storms and the sleet could be a problem as well. So I fully expect that this type of map going forward, you go to weather.gov, check this over the next few days. You'll see these storms are going to just parade across the country. We're going to get a lot more of this maroon color all through this area, and that's going to be indicative of a nasty ice event, I do believe. So we'll see. How long does this record hold? I'll be on top of it, and like I said, I might even go out there if it looks like a sure bet, see what I did there, that Vegas gets some rain. All right, let's switch over to stuff related to the tropics coming. This hurricane season is still several months away. But these are some of the things that we do like to watch. The sea surface temperature anomalies, the departures from the long-term average, in this case about 30 years. East Pac has warmed up just a little bit down here along the equatorial region anyway. Certainly not up in here. This is still pretty cold relative to average. But our La Nina, I almost said El Nino, you caught it. The La Nina still holding on strong across the equatorial region of the Pacific, while the Caribbean and most of the tropical Atlantic into the Northeast Atlantic also running above normal, which it has been for quite some time. But I want to draw your attention to the Gulf because it has rebounded just like, and I'm going to pat myself right there on the old back. I said that I thought it was going to rebound. Now look, before I go getting all arrogant about it, it was not hard to figure out. We had all that cold air that drained down, and this is what it looked like on the 22nd of January, way back in January, and the eastern Gulf really cooled off. You can see that. There was a lot made of it, and we were all anticipating what's going to happen because the Gulf has been running so warm these last several years, even into the winter, relative to average. And, certainly during hurricane season, it's really warm, even realistically. Like when you go put your foot in the Gulf, it's like almost 90 degrees in some places. That's not the same in the winter, but the anomalies, the departures from normal on the positive side are still substantial. So even though we had all that cold air that drained down, it didn't knock the temperatures down too much, but there was a noticeable change. Again, this is January 22nd. This is what it looks like yesterday. This is always a day behind. Look at that. That's pretty much a big rebound, especially right in here. I'm going to draw around it a little bit here, my own little polygon, and let's get the pointer back. Yeah, that's a pretty good change there, and especially in the Northwest Gulf too. Clearly, you can see the difference between the 22nd of January and just now. And the reason is, and this is what I was talking about, where I was able to recognize this, and again, it's not that hard. The pattern changed. We went from the dip in the jet stream to a more pronounced southeast ridge. The return flow around that ridge pumped in the warm Caribbean waters that are themselves warmer than average, filtering in through the Yucatan Channel into the Gulf, around the loop current, everything getting evenly distributed. There you go. Because, it's still February. It's still wintertime. The days are not getting that much longer. So it's not all from incoming solar radiation, the sun doing it. There has to be some other mechanism, and in this case, it's that big, fat southeast ridge that's been sitting down here. I'm oversimplifying it. It doesn't always look exactly like that, but that return flow around the backside of it really does help to supply the Gulf with plenty of warm water coming from all of this ample supply sitting out here. That's what I thought would happen, and as you can clearly see, that is exactly what has happened. So this will be important because not for hurricane season, the Gulf is always warm. Like don't even speculate beyond, well, maybe it won't be, it's always warm enough, believe me. What we really look for during hurricane season is if there is a hurricane, how much warmer are those Gulf waters when the hurricane is there? That's when that really matters. Right now, when I see this, I think you have all that extra warmth, all that extra latent heat, and it's still winter, so these storms that track across like this scoop up that Gulf moisture, and they are more energized. That helps to fuel the winter storms, and then once we get to spring, and you really get that return flow going and pump in those southerly winds into the southern plains, we can have some big severe weather outbreaks, even extending into Dixie Alley, as we call it, that little secondary area kind of down here, displaced from, I'm just kind of spitballing it, the typical Tornado Alley area. Those areas, when you see that kind of warmth coming out of the Gulf, you start to kind of scratch your head a little bit. We could be in for an active severe weather season. So that's why I think it matters right now. And we'll watch and see, because last thing I'll say about it, without any deep longitudinal troughs dipping down like that, this is going to continue to be able to at least hold its own or even warm up just a little bit. So as we round things out for today, this post here from Andrew. I met Andrew last year when I was over in Bermuda, because that's where Andrew lives and works. We had dinner over at the Swizzle out there right before Hurricane Ernesto. He's paying attention to this kind of stuff, the ECMWF with its, and I say this somewhat in jest, just joking, But the Euro and its annual, hey, the El Nino is coming back forecast. It just seems to always do this every winter. We got to get through the spring predictability barrier. It's that time of the year where the climate models really don't know what's going on because the Earth is in transition from spring to winter in the southern hemisphere and vice versa in the northern, and it just throws everything into chaos. But basically, since this does go into hurricane season right up here, June, July, August, it is interesting to see. And just, pointing it out, it shows a warmer subtropics versus right around an average deep tropics, and that could throw things out of balance. We'll see. This is still far enough out. I have a hard time buying it, and that's exactly what I said over here. My response, man, that's going to have to be a quick collapse of the La Nina, and I suppose the development of quite a strong subtropical ridge to cool the MDR like that. In other words, we're going to have some big fat area of high pressure sitting out here, just really stirring things up to keep this cooler than what we're seeing right now. But that's what the Euro is showing in its seasonal guidance. We shall see. You know where you can tune in to find out about it? Right here, because we'll talk about it at least once per week. Now, it is interesting. The Euro is suggesting we go on the warm side of ENSO just a little bit, the El Nino, Southern Oscillation Phenomena. Sorry, I got to finish that statement. Not saying we're going to have an El Nino. ENSO, E-N-S-O, El Nino Southern Oscillation. But look, the CFS also warming up in that critical 3.4 region as we get through the summer months here. Nothing, crazy like way up here. We don't want that for a lot of reasons. But a steady warming where I could see maybe warm neutral by the time we get to August. And as long as the Atlantic does not completely cool off, we should have a bona fide active hurricane season. There's just no reason to bet against that right now. But none of that means anything in terms of what you should do to prepare. You should just prepare the same every single year. It's just stuff we look at and things that we watch in the off season to know whether or not it's going to be very active or inactive. And those things matter later. We're just looking at this kind of stuff now. It gives us something to do in the off season, I guess. All right? And as I said, these temperatures here will have a bearing on severe weather season, which is just around the corner. All right, real quick, most of you do watch what we do on YouTube. I also post these videos on Patreon, of course. But just wanted to point out again, look, we got a really vibrant, lively YouTube channel. We do have live events, so please make sure. We have over 50,000 subscribers, which is just fantastic. What a great audience to have. You got to be notified, right? So make sure the most important thing, I know people say, smash that like button, all that other stuff. But to me, if you want to know when we have a video out, you got to have the notification button on so that you either get an email or a push notification or whatever the case may be for your device or your situation, that when we go live or when we have a new video put up, you are aware. And speaking of videos, all kinds of good stuff from these updates to the Hurricane U series down here. We got documentaries, live content, of course, and some 360 video as well. So, check it out, all right? And if you haven't subscribed, come on. What are you doing? You got to hit that subscribe button and become a part of our community, at least in that regard. We'd love to have you, all right? So that's it. That's it for this week. Anyway, I'll be keeping an eye on what's happening with all these different winter storms. I think one way or the other, though, I will be out probably next week covering something, either something in the Northeast, if that one looks like it winds up to be more of a doozy than it is now, but I'm more keen on showing up there in Vegas. I want to stand in front of that Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada sign with rain. I know people are like, rain? Come on, dude. But when you've gone over 200 days with no rain, they're going to be celebrating in the streets right there on Las Vegas Boulevard when that does happen. And I'm gonna wager, again, see what I did there? That it is going to happen. We'll see. All right, anyway, let me let you go. Get this online for you. As always, thank you for tuning in and giving me a listen. I do appreciate your time and attention. From all of us at HurricaneTrack, hey, I'm Mark Sudduth. Good to see you again. I'll talk to you sometime next week.